Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode, well, winter is coming and so is New York.
We did the New York loop, the Central Park loop, and kind of decided, let's put our own spin on this.
Could Zwift be about to build their own smart bike? The academies are a roaring success. Zwift commits to their future.
We love it. We think the community loves it. You can absolutely expect that we'll be continuing this in years to come.
Riding with ZBR, the famous Julie gives up her secrets to riding nice and slow. Plus, all the latest Zwifty news and chat. Well, someone has flicked the big red switch marked end of summer here in the UK, so we're going to be a bit more regular with Zwiftcasts from now on for the next few months. And the regulars, see what I did there? The regulars are back. I'm delighted to report Shane Miller. G'day, mate.
How are we doing, Simon?
Not too bad, thank you, my friend. And Nathan Gary, yo, dude.
Hey, how's it going, Simon? Hey, Shane.
All good here. Shane, being in the Upside Down, someone's actually not just flicked your end of summer switch, but end of winter switch. Which is kind of the end of the indoor season or the end of the peak of the indoor season in Oz. How's it been this year? Busier? More exciting? Or just a bit more of the same?
I judge my entire perception of how busy things are with the number of people in the Hump Day ride. So the number of people in the Hump Day ride has been bouncing around the 300. I think there was 327 the other night. We haven't seen any 400s this season. Not sure whether it's sort of dying off. I think it's about the same. But everyone's super excited for summer. We need our batteries recharged. We're all solar operated down here, and we're all on pretty low energy. So vitamin D coming up very soon down here, as long as the magpies stay away. They've been swooping too.
Yes, there's such a big. I mean, for people who don't realise this, and I didn't until I came to ride a bike in Australia. Magpies are attacking, vicious, pecking, swooping. Alfred Hitchcock, the Birds style magpies are a real thing in Australia, aren't they?
They really are. Look, we joke a lot about everything here wants to kill us. The snakes, the kangaroos jumping out at us, the emus, the dingoes, you name it. Everything wants to kill us. And then we just sort of laugh off the magpies. But then we'll be riding along and then you'll get hit on the back of the head as if someone's thrown a basketball or a baseball at the back of your head, and they'll draw blood. They really will. So I'm sure you've seen the memes online trying to have a bit of a laugh. They're actually true. And I just wish my little Garmin Varia radar would pick them up, but they're a little bit too small to be alerted.
Probably a bit too fast moving. Although that is aimed at cars, so maybe
I just need to point it up a bit.
Good thing. But yeah, but the thing is, informing you're about to be attacked by a magpie. I'm not quite sure how much use that actually is. Anyway, we should also say it's not the magpies' fault. They're just being magpies. They're being territorial, protecting their young because it's breeding season. Nathan, chill in the air in Wisconsin yet, my friend?
Yeah, actually, just a little bit. Today was the first day it started cooling off just a tad. Where I was riding the bike actually between here and Grandma Meal, and every Thursday night we have a Grandma Meal, and I definitely felt like I needed a sweatshirt for the first time.
Things are changing, as the meme on Zwift Riders says, winter is coming, boys. Well, one of the highlights of the upcoming season is going to be the release of New York, and I actually am pretty excited about this. Probably a bit more excited about it than I was and am about Innsbruck, which is, nice enough, but I think New York's going to be something different. Full disclosure, I have seen it, well, a pretty advanced version of it, and it really is amazing. It's completely stunning. And we're obviously a bit limited about what we can say about it, which can be frustrating for people, but, we need to talk about it. It is coming. I'll explain why we can't say too much in a minute, but as a bit of a tease, here's one of the senior 3D artists, Tony Arugas, talking just a little bit about the new course.
Drew a lot of inspiration from real-life architects, real cities like Dubai, right? New York is still there, but we're adding new buildings to it. In some cases, even adding on top of the actual older buildings. Yeah. Sort of like some parasite architecture.
I hate to use the cliche, but it's next level, isn't it? I mean, this really has moved on a long way. I mean, look at the detail down here. We've got people. We have more people because it's a city, I guess. Pretty massive levels of detail here for something that you're maybe only going to glimpse out the corner of your eye.
Yeah, we just, every time we just want to push, right? We want to make things a little bit better than what we did the last time. It's always good to do, but it's always a struggle too.
Yeah. And it will be, I mean, it's just going to be a surprise to just about every single Zwifter, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be well received? I mean, my initial impression is it's going to be very well received just because of how beautiful it is and how different it is and the different options it offers.
I definitely hope so. I mean, I'm always worried when things release. You know, the night it releases, I'm always just up, refreshing. It's like, who's got it? Who saw it? What are they saying? But I have a good feeling. I think people will like it.
Shane, you're heading off to Zwift HQ in the next couple of days. I guess you are going to be able to ride it, but the massive Zwifters are going to have to wait. And how long is that wait is definitely the big question of the moment. I'm kind of thinking we'll definitely get this some way before November the 15th. Now, my Australian friend, why is November the 15th a red-ringed date in the Zwift diary? Do explain.
Interesting one. I think about that time last year, we saw everybody's account flip over to either grandfathered pricing plans or the new pricing plans. So that may have something to do with that. But back on the course itself, if I'm in Zwift HQ, I promise listeners, I will try my very best to try and get a leak. I'll try and get a photo. I'll try and get something because I haven't seen it yet. So if I can get anything at all, I'll jump over onto the Zwiftcast listeners Facebook group and see what I can put there. So keep an eye on that for sure. I'll do my best, I promise. But yeah, that date, I'm a bit nervous.
Yeah, and I think Zwift are probably a bit nervous as well. I mean, just to explain to listeners, that date is when the, dare I say these two words together in the same sentence again? Price rise. That's when the price rise. That's when the price rise kicks in.
I think technically it'd be a price realignment for everybody who was on the grandfathered plan. So if you've signed up in the last year to Zwift, your price doesn't rise. It's the price is the price. But what they did, they offered this time last year a 12-month, I guess, grace period, or what they call grandfathered period, for people to stay on the $10 a month plan before it rose up to what it depends on which market you're in and the pricing you're paying with your currency. So this will only affect people who are on the grandfathered plan. So the old school Zwifters, I think, like the three of us. So that's who it's going to affect. If you're a new Zwifter in the last 12 months, no change.
I think there will be a few little jewels laid in our path to mitigate the pain of the price rise. And I have Emily Mullen from Zwift on the podcast later, so talking about the Academy, actually. So I asked her the big question about New York. I didn't expect specifics, to be honest, but she made quite a good fist of answering the impossible question. Anyway, here's what she said.
Soon.
No, you're going to have to do better than that.
Soon. Actually, we are, I am told it is semi-rideable. We're getting to take our first look at it today or so. It's not yet in our QA lab, but it's getting there. We're putting on some final touches. Our art team has gone yet again above and beyond to make just an incredible world. So I can't wait to share it with the world. There will be some fun surprises for everyone. Our runners will have some great surprises. Our riders will have some even more surprises. So can't wait. But I don't have a date for you yet.
Okay. Nathan, I think, well, we are expecting something pretty special with the release of New York, but, you know, it could be kind of topographically challenged, if that's a thing. I mean, New York's a flat city, and I can't see it being a flat course. So there's got to be some climbs. How are they going to do that, do you think? Or, you know, what might the wow factor be?
More undergrounds? I don't know about more undergrounds. We'll see, but I think it'll get really interesting. I think that's what's going to be happening, and a lot of creativity with New York.
Have you seen anything of it at all?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've actually seen a lot of it. I got kind of a similar walkthrough that you had to it when I was over at HQ. Very, very cool. I'm really excited for where things are going.
Yeah. And how do you rate it in terms of, you know, best ever?
You can't. I haven't ridden it. I have not ridden it. So, okay. So, but I'll do like a between the other courses. It's up against Watopia. Okay, I'll say that.
Is it better than Richmond? Is it better than Richmond? Oh, that wouldn't be hard.
Don't be horrible. Don't be. I've got to clamp down on this. Stop being horrible to Richmond. Have you noticed that this is the first time this month is the first time we've not had a Richmond day?
No one noticed.
And
no one noticed.
No, there were campaigns. I saw campaigns, Shane. I saw Bring Back Richmond campaigns all over Facebook. So no, look, come on, we can't be horrible to Richmond. Sorry, Nathan, to interrupt your point there. Go on, carry on.
I just was saying that I can't compare it to the others, but too much, I don't think. But from what I've seen, I would match it against Watopia, but we'll see how long lasting that is. I mean, Watopia is huge though, so there's a lot going on Watopia too. But yeah, I think I would put those not side by side, but I mean it's I'll call it similar in some ways. I mean, not at all. It's hard to. We'll leave that alone. It's similar in some very specific ways.
We will leave that alone. Moving on. Now, this news has been around for a while, but it's potentially really, really, really significant. So we do need to discuss it. Let's deal with the technology elements. Now, Zwift have said repeatedly in the past that they're a software company, not a hardware company. They've said that lots and lots and lots. But it does look as though that might be changing. And the result of that, which is what Zwifters might be interested in rather than the internal machinations, is a Zwift bike. A Zwift smart bike. An out-of-the-box, one-step solution to getting Zwifting, made by Zwift, Zwift branded. You buy a Zwift bike from Zwift, not unlike the kind of Peloton model, I guess. And to potentially make that happen, Zwift has licensed some very, very smart technology from a company called Virtue Pro. That's not Virtue Go, the software rival, although apparently there is some kind of relationship between Virtue Pro and Virtue Go. But Virtue Pro is a German-based company which already has a working smart bike on the market. It doesn't work with Zwift, actually, but that's a fairly trivial thing to fix. Shane, before we discuss why this is significant, just give us the rundown on Virtue Pro's tech. I mean, why have Zwift and others got so excited about it to the extent, as far as Zwift are concerned, that they've licensed the technology?
Look, I think what we saw in DC Ramaker's video of the unit itself that he jumped on and had a ride of, he was really impressed with the ride feel and the gear changing and everything about it being like riding a bike, and which is super, super important. So the technology they have must be real enough, or must have impressed them enough to say, look, we're going to put some cash down here and we want part of this. So until I guess it's really hard to discuss ride feel and, does it feel like riding a bike? We haven't been able to quantify that just yet into any sort of metrics. That's coming soon. Stay tuned. But this must have been pretty damn good to jump on, and must have impressed Eric quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, they've got this one little feature that Ray talks about, haven't they, which is if you stop, getting started again in erg mode is more like it is on the road. It's more like riding a bike. So they've got something really clever happening in acceleration.
Yeah, look, this is a really hard one for I guess, engineering teams to actually fix, to see which way they go with. We saw that on the Atom. If you stop pedaling, or the Wattbike Atom, it'll sort of let go of resistance and then kick in a few seconds later, so you're not just sort of stuck in this massive gear. Whether that's real or not, because if you're stuck on the side of a 7% hill, you still have to ride up that 7% hill. So I'm not sure, but it's from what I see Ray riding and how he presents that and talks about it, I'm quite excited about what's coming along and how real that's going to be and how much better it could potentially be than the smart trainers we have today.
Well, I mean, as Shane said there, Nathan, Zwift have clearly seen something that they feel is worth laying out money for. I mean, the whole concept of a Zwift smart bike, good idea, do you think? I'm
a little surprised because the no hardware thing, but at the same time, if the market isn't moving quick enough to start putting bikes where general population are, or make a quick pickup for people, be like, I don't want to do all this setup, I just need a bike, I think that eventually you just got to go. You know, eventually you got to make something happen. And I think there might be a little bit of like, well, let's get our hands on it and see what it takes too. So, I mean, if you get more information about what it takes, you can then work with your partners then better too, even if you are starting to sell your own stuff. I mean, I think that there's still the reality of like, you have experience with it then, and you can have massive support all around when it comes to smart bikes too, if you have to deal with it yourself. But yeah, it's still a little bit surprising, but at the same time, I think that the market is ripe to get a lot more users if you just put smart bikes with Zwift on it in places where people are using smart bikes, which is like every gym in the world.
No, absolutely right, and I think you absolutely nailed it at the beginning of your comments there. The industry is not moving fast enough for Zwift, so Zwift feel that, you know, they're going to step in and try and make things happen quicker, and that's what they've done by licensing this.
But it doesn't look like this bike is this bike actually to market already?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You can buy it. I mean, oddly, it doesn't work with Zwift at the moment, but that's a trivial fix, Shane, I think, isn't it?
Should be trivial.
Yeah. Well.
We've seen Zwift compatible devices not be very Zwift compatible, so I'm on the other side of the fence with that, going, we'll see.
I know you're always cautious, and a Zwift bike, that would be a really interesting one to see. So we'll keep a close eye on that one. Okay, let's move on to something which can only be described really as a huge success story for Zwift, and that's the academies. Both the men's and the women's are in full flow. I've enrolled. I'll talk to you two boys about whether you've enrolled or completed anything in a few moments. But first, let's just hear a few statistics. A stat pack which kind of represents just how popular the academies are this year. Academy riders are nothing if not determined. Of all riders starting a workout, 95% of them finish that workout. The group workout format gives a tiny added advantage. The completion rate there is 96%. There are a lot of Academy riders, almost 29,500 men and close to 5,000 women, and they've ridden a lot of workouts, almost 50,000 in total. Academy riders seem just to be a fraction fitter at the start of the programme than the average Zwifter, with an average FTP of 234 against an average of 231. It'll be interesting to see if the FTP for Academy riders at the end of the programme is higher than the average Zwifter. Should be. And Zwift staffers are keen Academy riders, with 116 of them enrolled on the programme. That's around half of everyone who works for Zwift.
Ride on!
Are we enrolled then, boys? I am. I'm very behind. I've only done 4 of the 10 workouts. I haven't done any races, and I've done 1 or 2 group rides. I mean, my thoughts... It is a very, very, very popular programme, and it does all kinds of jobs for Zwift, and it does them pretty well, actually. My kind of summary is the group rides, well, they're group rides, they're a great idea. They are social, they are fun, but they do suffer from the same problems that plague all group rides, which is flyers and the pace being forced by some people, and I really do think it's time that Zwift, enabled some kind of tools that can help to regulate that, and that comes up later in the podcast with Emily, so we will talk about that. The workouts are hard. That might say more about my fitness than the actual sessions, and I haven't raced yet, so don't really know about that. Nathan, where are you at? What are your thoughts?
I've got a couple of group rides. To be honest, I don't really like the group rides just because it's like easy. And like I kind of want to be challenged if I'm going to jump on the bike, and like I just feel like I need to go do this hour ride on the trainer that I'm kind of like, it's like okay. And then like I feel like there's kind of like overzealousness about people like being held back, like there's like, not to name any names, but some of the leaders are like always yelling at the people off the front. And it's just kind of like, just tell them, okay, people, we're going to try and stick together. And those guys, you guys go do your thing. Let them go. Don't chase them if you want to stick together. If you want to go with them, bye. You know what I mean? And let them do their thing. And we have this, like, I mean, I was on one where somebody just kept on. And it was really uncomfortable, actually. I mean, flyers are annoying to people, especially you old guys. No offense. But, like, come on. Like, seriously. Like, some people just like to ride hard. And, like, I've always kind of been that guy who, when I would get yelled at from the old guard for going off the front, they'd be like, well, then just let me go with the fast guys. Whatever, dude. Like, we're having fun. So anyways, but besides that, I like the workouts. Some of them didn't seem very hard, and some of them seemed really hard. I'm about number 7 at this point. I've gotten through, and I haven't done any races yet. I'm kind of scared of them, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad you agree, because I mean, you're way fitter than me. I'm glad you agree the workouts are tough. I mean, I really do think they're tough. Shane, have you done any of the workout sessions?
I have indeed. Now, I joined one the other day thinking, oh, this looks like a walk in the park. So it's 3 minutes and then 5 minutes and then 4 minutes. And then right at the end there was 10 minutes of free ride. I'm like, excellent. I can do this 10 minutes of free ride. But little did I know, the text on the screen said for that 10 minutes, you have to go as hard as you can. I'm like, hang on. I'm cooked. And then I thought, okay, I'll just ease into this. And we're with a group of people and there's a good group chat. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to ease. I'm just going to get this done just to tick that box and just to keep leveling up. I'll just get this like 10-minute thing done. But then it popped up on the screen that your average watts is this. And then I went up a little bit. And then I'm like, your average watch is this. And then it went up a little bit more. And then I started chasing. By the end of that 10 minutes, I was totally done. I was chasing that 320, 330 watt mark or something for the last 2 minutes. And I kept sprinting at the end to make sure it captured me. But they're tough work. Yeah. But they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are fun, and I think they're predominantly a bit shorter than last year, which is obviously a good lesson that Zwift have learned. Well, let's hear from a couple of academicians. I think we can call them academicians. Yeah, we can call them academicians. Let's hear from one male and one female academician. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Zwiftcast to Drew Epstein. Drew, I've got you on for some very good reasons, which I'll just rapidly go through. You've already graduated from the academy this year. You graduated last year, and you're a ride leader. So you are like the Mr. Perfect guy to talk to about the academy. Welcome to the Zwiftcast.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's very kind of you to volunteer. Now, let's just start by kind of comparing the two, last year's and this year's, the men's academies. What have been the main differences for you?
I think last year, the biggest thing was starting out with the FTP test, which this year we did not have at all. It wasn't a requirement. So there is a little bit more autonomy required on people's parts, and they expect you to do your diligence. And I'm not convinced that many people had done it appropriately. When I see some of the staggering differences in people's FTP, I see people increasing FTP by 100 points during these workouts. I said, this cannot be accurate within this short period of time. So that was one of the first things that I noticed, was that they just took away that requirement.
Do you think that's good? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I would prefer to have it mandated, because it just puts it on everyone else on a level playing field, so that people are really getting the workouts that they need to get to really get an assessment of where they are in the academy, and allowing people to insert their own FTP. I think it does a disservice to people who maybe don't know what their FTP is, or maybe are just taking a stab at it, or just maybe didn't have the time.
Yeah, good point. Okay, another major difference?
Last year, there were 8 workouts, if you recall. And some of them were absolutely brutal. The durations of them were also, most of them were much longer. Most of the workouts this year are less than an hour. So maybe a little more intense, but I remember last year for sure, especially workout 5, I remember being absolutely crucial. And I think a lot of people probably didn't get their star on that one. I don't know if you remember, it was 24 15-second sprints at 300% FTP.
Yeah, I'd have failed that one for sure.
This year, the group workouts are very different this year. And I feel overall, I think that Zwift has tailored the 2018 Zwift Academy to attract a broader audience. I think last year, a lot of people were sort of out of their depth and didn't understand what they were getting into. And they really are aiming at people who are looking for a professional cycling contract. So a lot of the casuals came out, and I think they got in way over their heads. This year, I think that they really tempered a lot of the workouts. They did make them sort of less intense and shorter.
That's a good thing, I think, broadening it out, broadening the appeal, I think.
Absolutely. I think that, for sure it does. I think that what it doesn't do is maybe necessarily filter as quickly who are the real contenders. And that may be a challenge for Zwift, but that's up to Zwift and Dimension Data to work out for themselves. But I think the broad appeal, for sure, for people to get a chance to train on a professional training plan, to train with people who are either pro or serious amateur cyclists, is an opportunity that you don't get outside of Zwift Academy. So it's pretty astounding.
Excellent analysis. All very, very, very good points, those, Drew. Let me ask you a final question. Which academy did you enjoy more, last year's or this year's?
I think last year's, because it was such a new experience for me. I hadn't, I was aware of the Women's Academy before, and I just thought, do I actually have the chops to get through this thing? And so for me, last year was a real achievement. I really felt like that sense of achievement.
Okay, I suspect you're just a glutton for punishment, mate, actually, a bit of a masochist.
That could also be.
Happily, we've got two academicians in one household. If you would hand over whatever device you're on at the moment to your wife, because it's going to be great to get a report from Claire on progress in the Women's Academy. So, hello, Claire, are you there?
Hello.
Hey Claire, great to talk to you. You probably heard Drew with his exceptional analysis of the Men's Academy. So from your part of the forest, I know you did the Women's Academy last year, and you've done the Women's Academy this year. The same, different, better?
Well, I think it's definitely different. I'm actually only halfway through this year's academy. I remember last year's workouts being definitely longer and in some ways harder. I also wonder if this year I maybe should have taken an FTP test before I started the Zwift Academy. So I'm going with my old setting. I also was coming off my first Ironman race like a week or two before Zwift Academy started. So I knew that my legs would not be up to very much. I also like that group rides, there's a little bit more variation in the lower watts per kilogram. In that last year, I remember, I believe all the women's rides were 2 to 2.5 watts per kilogram. And that was pretty close to my FTP, so I would get dropped every ride. This year, there's a 1.5 to 2 watts per kilogram option, and that's actually what I started with that first week. And I'm still getting dropped, but I'm able to stay with the group for a bit longer.
Yeah, and that kind of wattage per kilo, that's like a proper recovery ride, isn't it? I know the whenever I speak to anybody who takes part in the Women's Academy, that they talk about the camaraderie and the esprit de corps and the sense of community and the communication. Are all of those things as good this year, do you think?
Oh yes, definitely. I'm having a lot of fun on the group rides, and then through the Facebook group as well.
Yeah, excellent. And do you two do it together, or consecutively, or one after another, or fight over the kicker?
Well, sometimes we do our workouts at the same time because we actually have two trainers, but I don't have as much time to spend on the cycling necessarily because I'm doing the triathlon and I have some other activities as well. So Drew usually gets ahead of me on the workouts. So we did do a couple things together, but we are often on the bikes together, but doing different workouts.
Final question to you then, same one as to Drew really. Which one have you preferred, this year's or last year's?
Well, they're different. I like the workouts that I'm doing right now. I just finished workout 3 and 4, and I have workout 5 to do next. And I think those workouts, I'm really having fun with those because that's geared toward what I like, which is the short, intense efforts, the sprints. I'm more of a natural sprinter, I think. So I'm having a lot of fun with those right now. Thanks
very much indeed for talking to me. Please thank Drew on my behalf, and thanks to the pair of you. Good luck to both of you, and thanks for being on the Zwiftcast.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Okay, well, joined now by Emily Mullen from Zwift HQ. Emily, a huge success for Zwift.
We're feeling real good about them. We've had the biggest year yet. I think we even have probably over 700 graduates now who've made it through the whole thing. We're having a great time with it, and we're all doing it as well ourselves. So really experiencing it firsthand with the community.
Well, that's good to hear. I myself am also struggling through. I've completed 4 workouts, and I've needed 2 days off after each workout. These are not easy workouts, Emily Mullen.
They aren't, no. And workout number 1 was a bit of an eye opener. I did workout number 1, and I remember being like, oh boy, it's like you need to take rest days, you need to take recovery days. The group rides are meant to be a little bit in recovery mode.
A continuing source of frustration for people, Emily, is the way that group rides break up. It is dealing with flyers and group rides, and going beyond the advertised pace. And this again has come up in the academy, and I think it's even more pertinent in the academy really, because as you just said, people kind of look forward to a recovery ride and a social ride, and they get on it and they find it goes off like a race. Here's one very typical comment: I've done 3 group rides, I got dropped twice. And the suggestions that people make for tools that Zwift could give to ride leaders to more effectively police group rides. I mean, why doesn't Zwift do that?
Well, we're working on that, Simon, because we feel it as well. And we want ride leaders, and we always ask ride leaders to stick to advertised pace.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Emily, but I think that's why people would like to see ride leaders more supported by Zwift. Whether that be a button that just kills a flyer or takes them, whatever. Lots of techniques have been discussed. I mean, can you give us an assurance that you're definitely working on this stuff, and might it be coming quite soon?
Yeah, those are the things we're working on. We want to make sure that we don't give power that might be abused by anyone, and so that it's genuinely used for the purpose of, if somebody's flying off, can we be able to kick them out of the group or something like that, and not just because you don't like them or something like that. But it's definitely something we're working on.
Well, it's good to hear that the work is definitely going on that. I think that would be very well received by anybody who does regular group rides in the academy or otherwise. And that kind of plays a little bit into the next point actually. And we do massively appreciate the ride leaders. They do a difficult job, and certainly all of the ones I've seen do a difficult job extremely well. But would you consider being able to put more group rides in the academies on the schedule, on the calendar? But make them leaderless, because I assume the reason there's not more group rides is because good leaders are hard to find, and people have got lots of demands on their time. So kind of why not go with more leaderless rides perhaps?
In many respects, for Zwift Academy, this is the sort of sampling platter of the very best of Zwift, and so we get you to do a workout, we get you to do a group workout, we get you to do a group ride, we get you to do a race. And for most Zwifters, it's the first time they're doing one of those types of events. With group rides, it's the same thing. For folks who don't usually do group rides, we want to have what we believe tends to be the very best experience, which has a ride leader who organizes the ride, who tries to keep the pace, who keeps the conversation going, and is a friendly lead who can answer any sort of questions you might have about Zwift or Zwift Academy, or at least help you get to the answers that you might have.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good answer, Emily. Actually, it's a good answer. The best. You want it to be the best of the best. So I think people will probably accept that logic. In one respect, not in the physical exertion respect, because I do think these are a significant challenge, the workouts. But in one respect, you've kind of made the academy easier, and you've done that really by. There's no requirement for these very long workouts. These 80, 90, 95 minutes. I think some of them even were last year. And the workouts are completed in a shorter time period, which you know, I mean, the reason an awful lot of people use Zwift is because they are short of time. That was obviously a conscious decision.
So we're in our third year, actually, I should say, with Zwift Academy, and we've heard feedback from the community year over year, and we always take it at the very start to review that feedback and say, well, how can we improve the next year's Academy? And over the past 2 years, we've heard feedback loud and clear about the number of requirements and the toughness or the length of those requirements.
And do you want to put your neck on the line, Emily, and venture to suggest that graduation rates this year may be higher?
Oh, yeah, I'll say that. I think they're going to be significantly higher this year than in previous years.
But I mean, I think it's fair to say, Emily, that the academies have been a huge success, and you know, many congratulations for Zwift for sticking with them, really, because they, you know, I know logistically they're not easy to do. I mean, nobody can ever predict the future with any certainty, but is this a fixture now? Is this a part of the furniture for Zwift for the foreseeable future?
Yes, absolutely, and so we love it. We think the community loves it. We love working with the teams that we've been able to work with and the coaches and the athletes who have come out of Zwift Academy. So you can absolutely expect that we'll be continuing this in years to come.
Right on! Okay, back with Shane and Nathan. Final thoughts, fellas, on the Academy. My one thought was, and I know Zwift are probably conscious of not being too much like Trainer Road here, but I just wonder if the workouts could contain a little bit more in the way of on-screen information, like physiological stuff, kind of very brief explanation of why you're doing what you're doing at that particular time. But, you know, a perfect example was, I did one the other day, I think it was 4 5-minute blocks. It was way sub-threshold, but, you know, it was kind of just on the edge of the green zone. But it was at 60 RPM. And I just thought, I'd just like the workout to tell me why I'm doing this, you know, what the aim from that is. Do you think that's a point, Nathan, or do you think, you know, people have got enough to worry about without trying to read a screen full of physiological information?
Yeah, there's a lot of good direction, I feel like, and they do give you a little bit of the whys. I think maybe reminders to read the workout description if you want that information beforehand would probably be good, because during it, I kind of get annoyed by how much is there almost, personally. Maybe some people like that, but I'm a coach though too, so like I am kind of like, I know kind of why this is here and this is cool, but I kind of want to see what's going on in Zwift more than see the chat across there. If you like that, it'd be cool to actually be able to turn it on or off. Personally, like I would really like to be able to just turn the chat off in the workout so I can just see Zwift and the numbers. And in the mobile app, I'm using that a lot right now too. So you know, maybe have it in there rather than, it is in there up at the top, but just the ability to turn it off on screen would be cool.
Yeah, allowing users to configure the screen layout. Yeah, that's been a long time coming as well. Shane, I know that the position of the text is a particular bugbear of yours, is it not? In fact, I'd even describe it as your hobby horse at the moment.
Well, during a live stream fail the other night, I was chasing back on, and then the text kept popping up on the screen right in the center. Now, when I'm riding out on the road, I think we all do. We look up the road into the horizon. We know what's coming up. We see the cars and the other riders or the turns. On Zwift, you've only got this little sort of pocket of, I'd call it almost a postage stamp area you'd be looking at. So you know there's a turn or there's a bunch to catch. And here I am. I'm red-faced, red-headed, pretty angry at the time. And I need to know how far ahead that bunch is because I want to see them chase them down. And this pop, 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 this text kept coming up from the ride leader in the center of the screen. I lost myself in that. I lost a few things as well at the same time. Lost my mind.
Where do you want it?
For me,
I mean, do you want it like lower third, which is the classic place for text on screen?
Well, I think lower third is, I mean, if you ever download a dodgy movie from the internet, or if you ever turn on captions or something like that, it's always lower third. Yeah. Always lower third. If you're looking at the news, the tickers usually get the lower third. Information is always presented on the bottom, not right exactly where we're looking. It's like watching morning television or the news, and the ticker tape is right across their eyes. You know, the ticker screen. Yeah. it's just in the wrong spot. It just needs to be sunk just a little bit. So yeah, it definitely is I'm on my high horse about that all the time.
Yeah, and are you going to mount your high horse and gallop it through the front doors of Zwift headquarters next week and make this point to somebody who might?
It won't be a
you?
horse. It'll be a pack of alpacas. I'll have I'll get out the front and there'll be alpacas with placards. How does that sound?
I'm liking that image. Or maybe
bit of a Dr. Seuss thing.
Yeah, maybe a chariot, propelled by 6 tethered dingoes or something like that. Or am I getting now ridiculously Australian?
No, that's perfect. That's
Australian
perfect.
offensive. To be honest, I mean, as regards the academies, the kind of lack of, or in some people's view, the lack of information. It's a very trivial point, actually. But the point about text on screen, I think you're quite right, Shane. Actually, I do. I mean, when I worked in TV, text on screen was actually, the actual generic name for it was a lower third. So it will be, where's the lower third? Or that, the person's name in the lower third is not spelt right, do it again. That kind of thing. They were called a lower third for a reason, really, which is because that is the classic place for putting text on screen. So, yes, it would be nice to see it move down. I agree with you on that.
This is the Zwiftcast, the podcast for Zwifters.
Okay, a quick few kind of Zwifty bites of news and chat coming up now. Zwift they've just updated their forums. I mean, we all know Facebook is kind of useless for certain things. That forums are much better at, which is kind of like reference material, really, and a history of a problem that other people have worked out a solution to. Facebook's useless at that. And Zwift have updated their forums. You've had a quick skeg around the forums, Shane? Any good? The new Zwift forums?
Yeah, I've sort of trying to get an umbrella view of what's going on here and why the change. When the first thing, somebody asked a question the other day that I didn't know the answer to, so I quickly Googled it, and then it indexed the old forums which don't exist anymore. So the indexing from Google is now broken, which is a bit of a problem. Typically, if you're going to upgrade or migrate to another forum, you leave the existing ones in place or put a redirect to the same content, just so you don't get that. Well, at the moment, people are getting 404 errors. This content's not found. You've got to go to the cached version. That's if you use Google as your search engine. You can obviously go over to the forums and search for there. Look, it's a really tough one for Zwift. Zwift from day one have always struggled with, and it's not just a Zwift thing, it's the technology thing. How do we upskill people? Because this is kind of hard to get everything connected together. It's all many, I'm looking behind me now, I've got about 20 different company products behind me, all for the one Zwifting session. That's a lot of things to put together, a lot of standards to connect. That's the best thing about standards. There's so many to choose from. And I have, it's the same with everyone else. Now, my point being that no matter how you present this information, you can present the most detailed how-to document, A to Z. This is exactly what you need to do to get set up. People will still not read that because they want to get home, open a box, sign in, sign up, and just get writing. That's just what they want to do. They don't have time to read 20, 30 minutes and invest their time. That's why video works quite well, because people can sit there and be engaged with video and see some hands-on stuff. Text, I'm not sure. Do we need another forum? It needs to be there, but driving traffic over there so it's got a valuable resource, I'm not quite sure. It is going to be a location, though, that they do migrate all those documents over to. There's going to be a good resource pool so people can be referred to there, but people want hand-holding. Everybody believes their problem is unique and want to be stepped through. I'm the same as a consumer. I want help. I mean, there's many things that are broken in the last week that I've jumped on YouTube and searched forums for. I think it's good to have it there, but it's not like going to be the be all and end all that's going to solve everyone's problem. Everyone's going to know how to do everything. So it's a good refresh, but same old, same old.
Well, it's one of a suite of tools, but forums are better than Facebook, Nathan, aren't they, for getting this kind of information over, surely?
Yeah, you can search them a little bit easier. There's definitely, I think just the database side of it is the stronger aspect, obviously. And it's not as cluttered and stuff, and people are going for an exact purpose. So that, having a Zwift only place, whereas it gets a little bit more cluttered and other things get involved and it gets a little more social in those other spaces. And it's not social media. It's like, here's our forums and this is about Zwift. So, it doesn't get as crazy, I guess I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, next little newsy thing. As you chaps won't know, because it's Eurosport, and neither of you are in Europe, Zwift advertising, well, sponsoring is the correct technical term. They're sponsoring the coverage of the Vuelta.
Zwift sponsors coverage of La Vuelta.
It's high profile, probably not cheap, though maybe not as expensive as you might think. And it's obviously part of a big push to recruit new Zwifters this winter. Now, there's a feeling abroad in some quarters, based on little more than speculation, but hey, that's never stopped us before, that last winter we might have kind of reached sort of peak Zwift is the phrase that's being used. And every subscriber this winter is going to be much, much, much harder won. Nathan, if you were betting the farm, I know you don't have a farm, but if you had a farm, would you be betting it? Would you be betting Zwift piling on a gazillion new subscribers this winter?
I think we're not at peak numbers. A gazillion? I'm not gonna bet, but I wouldn't bet the farm or anything like that. But I definitely think that we are gonna go up. We're gonna go up.
Shane, are we gonna go up big? Has the low-hanging fruit been plucked? Is this why we're now seeing things like advertising on TV, which is, it's an expensive way of acquiring customers, that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see. I use Google Trends quite a bit to see what's going on. There's definitely an uptick at this time of year, and that is still trending upwards that I'm seeing. So I'm not quite sure if, the numbers we saw on the Hump Day ride didn't double from last year. There wasn't an increase of 50%. So I'm not sure. We may have seen peak Zwift.
You think so?
I'm on the fence.
Well, I think it probably goes without saying that it's going to be harder to win new subscribers this year, but I'm sure they're going to work pretty hard to do that. A couple of interesting bits in the most recent Zwift update. One, actually, I noticed this, or maybe I wasn't sufficiently observant previously, but they seem to have really improved the artwork around Innsbruck. They kind of tweaked it and polished it. Although I now see the city or town or village of SFSDF has sadly been wiped from the map and no longer exists on planet Earth. I, for one, am very disappointed to see that. But seriously, the art does look to have been tweaked. And, regardless of the kind of topography of the course, which is not to everyone's liking, the art does look peachy on Innsbruck, doesn't it, Nathan? Do you think that... Did you notice the things I noticed in the update?
The art looks amazing. I think I've said this before. Innsbruck is one of the most beautiful courses I've ever seen, actually. And I feel like the detail is much deeper for some reason on this course. And it might just because there's more things. And so the detail has to be greater then. You have to have more pixels just to show more things. But there's definitely more depth to Innsbruck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what I think. It does, and particularly if you compare it to Richmond. So there's a poor comparison really, because Zwift was a tiny company when it released Richmond. Have you ridden it much and looked around much, Shane? You as impressed as we are?
Yeah, I've hung out in the freeway with the cars. I've actually been a bit creative with the camera angles there, especially under the freeway. You can actually place the camera right on the road and get run over by cars. So whilst all the graphics and artwork are absolutely brilliant for what you see, when you get behind the scenes, those cars look a little square and a little boxy. But one of my projects, and I'll throw it in the challenge for anybody listening to the Zwiftcast, if they want to do this before I get to it, we can actually calculate the speed of those cars. Because I think those trucks are speeding. They are moving at lightning speed. I think they're going twice the speed limit. So if you were to capture some trucks and then estimate the length of the truck, count the frames, we could actually estimate the speed of those cars. So that's on my project list of things to do. I don't know why.
You have too much time on your hands, Shane. Well, that's all I can say.
These questions need to be answered.
Actually, it's a very intriguing little challenge. I'd love to know the answer to that. If anybody gets to that before Shane, hop onto the Zwiftcast listeners forum and do let us know. Last thing in the update, which was really intriguing, and I'm just going to have to get you to explain this, Shane, because I kind of understand it, but I'm not sure I can explain it. There's been a tweak to the code that now means that rider weight is sent via ANT to Zwift. It's always been sent by Bluetooth, but it is now being sent by ANT, which sounds deeply technical and deeply boring, but it does actually have an effect. What does it mean? What does it actually mean, Shane? And why wasn't it done before?
Good question about why it hasn't been done before, but it's there now, so we're good. I've done a whole video on this showing a tax neo in the two different examples. So I think the most simple way I can boil it down to, if you were to weigh, let's just say 75 kilos, and you were to ride up a 10% grade, you've got to press on the pedals a certain amount. So 75 kilo, or your current weight. Let's just say that. Your current weight, you're riding up a 10% grade. If you were to then put on a weight vest, a 15 kilo or a 20 kilo weight vest, that 10% hill is a lot harder to ride up. So what you're pushing on the pedals, that changes. It changes your experience. So every trainer out there that has a maximum gradient simulation of 25%, 20%, 16%, 12%, that's all calculated based on an average rider weight of 75 kilos and a bike weight or a system weight of 10 kilos. So our trainers actually do have the ability to change the feel of a ride, because when you put that heavy jacket on, that weighted down jacket, it should feel different. And a lot of trainers do have that ability. So now Zwift is sending that command that we're sending over, it's been sent over Bluetooth since ever. Now over ANT plus FEC, that is sent to the trainer based on the weight you've entered. So you don't need to change anything at all in game. It's done automatically. So if you were, what this actually means, I guess at the end of the day, if you're a lighter rider, you're going to be able to spin up the hills a little easier. So it'll feel like probably about a 1 or a 2 gear change if you're a lot lighter than 75. If you're a lot heavier, if you're a Clydesdale, a good time trialist who can put out a lot of sprint power, you weight it down a little bit more, you might have to click up another gear and just make it a little easier to spin on yourself. So most people won't notice it because it's based on all averages, and we're all pretty average. But the outliers might.
It increases the resistance if you're a bit heavier.
Well, the simulation of the resistance, yeah.
Okay, so simple question then. Mm-hmm. Is that going to make me, who is, I'm on the heavy side, 83, 85 kilos, is that going to make my time up Alpe d'Huez slower?
Absolutely not. It won't change anybody's time at all, because that's all based on your watts per kilo, which is always staying the same, the in-game simulation, which hasn't changed, and your ability to produce power, which is your watts per kilo. So no, you may, in your example, you may have to change up 1 gear. I think it'll be subtle enough. You might not even notice. You might just think, I just changed up a gear because you've got 10 or 11 on the back now, sometimes 12. You might notice, but it is quite a significant update that did drop sort of under the radar, and it will affect the outliers, but it's good to see because it brings things more into line with realism and the real outside world. So when we see, it's a 10% gradient, great. It now feels like 10% to me and to every other user who's using it based on their attributes, their weight. I like it. It's a good update. It needed to be done. But yeah, bring it on.
I mean, it's a real nuance, and apologies if we've bored listeners with...
That's awesome stuff. I love geeking out on that.
With geeking out on nuances. But it's good. And like you say, it shows that Zwift are continuing to polish and tweak and add accuracy and realism to the game. So hats off. Well done. Well done to them for that. Finally, in the quick hits bit, another geek out really, but an interesting bit of bureaucracy in the recent national champs for Australia and New Zealand. Entrants had to declare and to an extent prove their gender by submitting details of the national membership association that they may have belonged to, which looked like a kind of quite subtle step to guard against so-called gender doping on Zwift racing, which in reality is men posing as women. Nathan, is this really a big problem? I mean, how would you know? But I mean, do you think this might be a big problem? And if it is this a smart step forward, good way to deal with it?
I don't think it's a huge problem. It might be a small problem, but I think the main thing is things getting official, making sure that we're checking age and that people kind of know who these people are. And it is giving the structures that are already in place in real life the authority then over what's going on in the game. And it makes things a little bit, I could see this expanding in the future and really starting to create some cool ways to bring in racing in ways that we didn't see the same kind of validity before. So it's the next step, and I think it's really cool. I don't think the gender issue is as big of why this is happening, but I think it's a small part of it, and it's just like an ingredient to the whole cake of like validity, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree on that. I mean, gender doping, it probably isn't a huge issue in that there probably aren't thousands of people doing it. But the people who are convinced that some people are doing it, they get really annoyed about it, and I can kind of understand why, really.
Well, sure.
But Shane, I thought that was a neat solution, didn't you? So basically, submit your race license or your membership details from your national association.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It outsources a lot of the problems as well. If you've got a race license, and I've got mine sitting on the table next to me here, even though I haven't raced a lot this year outside, because it sort of hands off the responsibility of identification, and as Nathan was saying, the verification of who you really are and what you're categorized as, I guess, as well. Even age group stuff as well as on my license here. Also, and the most important one is anti-doping. Zwift aren't in a position to enforce or to have their testers go out and test people themselves. So the next best thing is to rely on the corporation, or corporations, actually, it's not really a corporation. Is it? Is the UCI corporation? I don't know. But yeah, the bodies, or the governing bodies, I guess you'd call it.
Entity.
Entity, yes. Cycling's not about money, is it? And all their infrastructure and their policies that are already in place. So they've just outsourced all not the tricky stuff, the hard stuff, I guess, to a body who's already involved in cycling, is already administering it. I was going to say quite well, but that's probably up for debate as well. But sufficiently. I think it's a good idea. It really is. And these days, to be at the pointy end of a Zwift race, you're going to have to be a pretty damn good cyclist, let's be honest. So the people winning in positions of actually achieving greatness in these races are pretty much going to have a license anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see if they extend what they did in Australia and New Zealand to rest of the world when the Zwift National Championships come round this indoor season this winter. I'm pretty sure they are going to actually look like a pilot scheme in Australia and New Zealand. So yeah, good, excellent. Okay, another move forward by Zwift. Good to see. Okay, last little feature of this particular episode of the Zwiftcast. Now, we know many Zwifters use the platform to rehabilitate from injury. That's one thing. Another thing is that there's actually a huge demand for slower group rides for less strong riders that run at the advertised pace. One experienced and charismatic ride leader who combines both these things is Julie Hoff. And it was high time I caught up with her, so here she is. Hi, Julie.
Hi, how are you today, Simon?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, would it be fair of me to describe you as one of the most individual and charismatic of all ride leaders on Zwift? I think it would be.
Probably so. I'm certainly one of the more colourful ones.
Colourful, vocal, controversial, and very dedicated. I mean, you lead lots and lots of rides. I want to focus particularly for circumstances personal to you, because it cannot have escaped anybody's notice. I know you've been desperately trying to keep it a secret, but you have recently undergone something of a fairly serious injury. I'm joking about it, but actually it's a fairly serious injury. What happened, Julie?
There was a collision at an intersection where a woman and I met, and I left a rather large dent in her SUV, and she left me with a broken femur that took a few screws to put back together again.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not good at all. Now, you're being very polite there, but I'm guessing it was the motorist's fault. It's always the motorist's fault.
Yes, but I really want to emphasize that, because we have a lot of cyclists who are very rude and don't obey stop sign laws, and I'm as part of my rehab, I'm trying to get the message out that everybody needs to just stop and look.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear about your injury, and we'll talk about rehab, because that's kind of one of the reasons I've got you on, really. Which is, I mean, you've developed a reputation for leading a nice social group ride where the pack stays together, and they're very, very well respected. And everybody I speak to who's ever been on one of your rides really speaks very, very highly of them. What's the secret to leading those, Julie?
The secret is learning a lot more self-control than I think many of us exercise when we get on a bike. When I first started the idea, I couldn't have ridden 1.0 for more than a few minutes if my life depended on it. And I just had to develop a riding technique where, I keep an eagle eye out on the power and the little graph at the bottom and try to ride as flat a line as I can. And at the same time, encourage people to share their stories about their own recovery.
You must get flyers. Everybody gets flyers. But can you keep them to a minimum? Do you shame them? Do you scold them? What do you do?
I've tried a number of techniques and tactics. I hate to say none of which work, but I try to let them know that, they're on a ride. We've had, I had a paraplegic who was on a hand cycle on Zwift. I've had other riders, hemispherectomy, a woman who's apparently half of her brain doesn't work properly, heart transplants, cancer survivors, women who are recently postpartum. But the flyers are just flyers, and we have no tools from Zwift to deal with it.
Well, that's the sole point, isn't it? I mean, we could have a separate conversation about that, and I'm sure
yes.
over the coming indoor season we will do, because I really do think it's about time Zwift did give ride leaders some kind of sanction, whether that's a boot button or whatever it is. But anyway, that's a separate issue. At the moment, ride leaders like yourself have got to almost use sheer kind of force of will and force of personality to try to keep rides like this together. But the thing is, there's a huge demand for them, is there not?
Yes, there is. We get requests for rides down to paces that I realistically can't possibly ride. We had one woman who was looking for a 0.7 to 1.0 ride. There are a lot of folks who are using Zwift as a fitness tool, and the social aspect of it helps keep them coming back to the platform. And it's anything that that helps them with their health is a good thing to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, again, the key to a successful group ride, as well as the kind of will and personality of the leader and trying to keep an even pace, which clearly you do, is the camaraderie, isn't there? And the esprit de corps of like-minded people. Again, that seems to be a particular feature of your rides.
Yes, we have managed to create our own little cult in the Zwift Beginner Rides Facebook group. We refer to ourselves as zebras. We make up jokes about, we're not thoroughbreds, we're not fast, we're not smart. We eat hay and we frolic in the sunshine. And that culture within the group has really created a very family-like environment where we're all friendly and we share our accomplishments, big and small.
If people are looking out for your rides, Julie, what should they look for?
Our 3-letter tag is ZBR for Zwift Beginner Rides. They do show up in the event schedule. We have rides most days.
But ZBR is the tag to look out for, or ZBR for people in the UK? Terrific, fantastic to put a voice to the ride leadership and profile that people will know so well from Facebook and Zwift forums, where you consistently post in a most amusing and informative and entertaining way.
Yes,
Julie, it has to be said. There is a place for slow rides in any cyclist life, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And I try to convince some of the Cat D and Cat C riders that these are really fantastic recovery rides. The pace is slow. It's very easy on the body. It keeps the muscles flexible. So you're not having a total off day where you're not actually making the pedals go around and keeping the muscles loosened up. Really,
really fab to talk to you, Julie. And once again, thanks for everything you do on behalf of the community. I know it's appreciated.
Certainly. Thank you so very much.
Well, that's it for this one. We're back. Well, actually, we're off in a minute. So, but we've been back, and we're going to be back more regularly over the Northern Hemisphere winter. We've been on a bit of a diminished schedule over summer, but that's going to change, and I'm hoping to get a podcast out once every couple of weeks, so I hope people will enjoy that. Shane, what's big in your life? Obviously, weather's all different for you. You're about to go into spring, but you're crossing the globe off to OHQ this week. What are you kind of expecting from that trip?
Another long-haul flight, and the entire reason why I'm heading over is to move that text into the lower third. So I'll report back on how I go.
Yeah, well, don't come back unless you achieve it. Nathan, what's big in your world?
We've got obviously Zwift Academy. We're covering a ton of Zwift Academy stuff. Really excited about that. So that's about it. I'm really looking forward to the winter and the fall. It's so weird to say that. And kind of, this is going to be the broadcasting is going to ramp up, I think.
Excellent. Well, that's all to be found over on CCL. Shane, just before we leave, actually, I've got to talk about this because we've not had an opportunity to discuss it, and it's so weird. It must be your biggest ever video over on GP Llama. I mean, last time I looked at it, it had over 4 million views, which is kind of like, you know, normally what you see on like some crazy cat video or dog video. Anyway, and it was the weirdest subject. It was a piece of technology which doesn't actually exist. It was an alternative drivetrain. Where did that huge hit come from, do you think?
Look, that was just something that was interesting. So the ceramic speed driven or driven drivetrain doesn't have a chain. There's just a drive shaft. But what's unique about it is that they, rather than the interface being cog on cog, it was cog on this bearing thing. It just looked really cool. So I think just the visuals really took off. I think there was a mountain bike magazine in Romania who grabbed a hold of that, and that went crazy through there. It's just really, it went viral. It went really viral. So I got on the plane coming back from Eurobike. It had 2 million views as I sat on the plane. I got off the plane 24 hours later, and it had another 1 million views on top of that again, which was just unbelievable to see. So that gave the channel a huge spike, which was good to see. And things are ticking along quite well. So I'll forever try and make another one of those videos.
But that's the problem, isn't it? You would never have thought that was going to get 4 million views. Never.
I've done some pretty cool stuff, like what I think is super cool, like how erg mode works with different gear ratios and how this weight effect. Like, I'm right into this stuff. This is super cool to me. That's why I keep doing it. This drivetrain was like, oh, hey Ray, can you hold the camera for me, mate? Yeah, cool. Okay, let's upload that. Go back to the RV, upload. Let's go get dinner, and it went kaboom. So just random stuff. I'll keep chipping away. But my analogy for that is like we were digging for gold and we found one nugget in 2 years. But the channel seems to be ticking along quite well though after that as well, so it's all good.
It reminds me of that aphorism that a writer called William Goldman wrote, who was writing about Hollywood. He wrote a great book actually called "You'll Never Have Lunch in This Town Again," which is a very good read. I recommend it to anybody. But this phrase cropped up in another book, and he was talking about the ability of Hollywood studios to try and predict what would be a hit movie. And his upsum of that was nobody knows anything. And,
yep.
In content terms, that remains true today. Nobody knows anything. You never ever know where the next hit is coming from. Really strange. But congratulations on that humongous and massive number of views, Shane. Well done.
That was good to see one go through the roof. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, and more like that, or maybe not more like that actually, but lots of great content over on Shane's YouTube channel. As ever, boys, it's been a total pleasure. It's going to be a more regular pleasure over winter now, and so thank you very much. Talk next time.
Thanks, Evan.
Boys.
See you, Shane.
See you next time.
Thanks very much for listening. If you want a bit of inside griff on the Zwiftcast, best place to go to is the Zwiftcast listeners page. Come and join us there for a bit of chat and gossip and news about the Zwiftcast. And we should just end in the normal way by thanking Zwift for their support of the Zwiftcast, but reminding listeners that support doesn't mean they influence anything we say. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.